Hi, my name is Ashley, and I'm going to teach you a yoga sequence. This sequence is designed to make you happy. It's a blissful holiday sequence. I created this sequence just because I know the holiday times can be super stressful. So we're going to start in either cross-legged seated position or rock pose, which is just seated on your heels. I'm going to start in the rock pose. If it's not comfortable for you to sit like this on your heels, you can also place several pillows in between your legs, and that's a great option to have. So start just by sitting and closing your eyes. Make sure that it's a comfortable position for you. And at the beginning of yoga class, we usually focus on the breath. So we're going to start by closing the mouth and breathing through the nose and starting to take a deeper breath. So breathe into the body and think about drawing the breath all the way down to the belly. And exhaling, slowly release through the nose. And inhaling, draw the breath all the way down into the belly. Maybe feel the belly rise. Exhale, slowly release. And do that 3 more times. Inhale. Draw the breath down to the body, into the belly, belly rises. Exhale, slowly let it go. Inhale, this time drawing the breath all the way down to the belly and perhaps feeling the rib cage expand. Exhale, slowly release. Last time, all the way into the body. Slowly release. Keep the eyes closed and continue with that breath for a little bit longer. In yoga, we do try to breathe through the nose. We try to keep the deep, long breath flowing all the way throughout our class. If any time you feel like you're needing to hold the breath, that's your body's way of telling you that it is time to back off a little bit. And remember that this is your class, so you do what feels right for your body. If anytime you're in a pose and your body is telling you maybe this is just a little bit too much, feel free to back off and modify it in any way. So we're going to open our eyes now, relax the shoulders, and if you're not in rock pose, go ahead and come into rock pose seated on the heels. We're going to inhale our arms all the way up overhead, bring the palms together, and we're going to exhale, folding forward, allowing the hands to come down towards the floor. And then dropping the chin and surrendering into this pose. So really, maybe your belly can rest on your thighs, that's great. If not, that's fine too. Just allow yourself, wherever you are, to surrender. We have 3 breaths here. Inhaling, exhale. Inhale, breathe into the back body, exhale. Inhale, exhale. You can use your hands to help you come back, and we're coming into a hands and knees. So on our hands and knees, you want to make sure that we do have our knees directly underneath the hips, and we have some space between the knees, and our hands directly underneath the shoulders, and we have some space there. We're going to start by pulling the belly up and in so that we feel like we have like a little fire under here, and we're pulling our belly button away from the fire. We don't want to feel that heat. We're going to keep that engagement. Then we're going to do our Spinal Balance series. So we're going to start with the right arm, reaching the right arm forward and bring the left leg behind you. And we're going to reach the fingertips and the toes away from each other, turning the palm to the floor, tuck the shoulder just a little bit down away from the ears to engage. And you're going to keep your gaze at the mat so that you have a nice long neck. And we have 2 more breaths here. If this is too much, you can always do just the leg or just the arm. And last breath, release. Take a moment to just reassess where your hands and legs are. And then go ahead and scoop that belly in, reminding yourself really strong in the core. And then right leg back, left arm forward, gazing at the mat. Try to keep the right hip directly beside the left hip. Keep that strong core engagement. Keep the breath flowing. Now, if you modified on the first side, you try to modify on the second side, doing the pose the same way on each side. And last breath here. And we'll release. You have the option of coming to child's pose, which toes would be together, and you sit back on the heels and fold the body over. Or you can stay right here. We're going to come into a cat-cow series, starting with cat. We're going to tuck the chin round the spine, way up into the sky, pull the belly button up, tuck your tailbone so it's reaching towards the back of your knees. Let's really exaggerate this pose for a moment. Really tuck the chin to the chest. Try to find the most arch in your spine that you possibly can. And then on an inhale, we're going to move into cow. So we're going to take the tailbone and roll it up away from the back of the knees. We're going to lengthen the entire front body. We're going to look forward. And again, you're trying to find as much length from the chin to your pelvis. Good, we're going to flow with these two poses. So we're going to exhale, round up into cat. Inhale, flow right into cow. Exhale, round into cat. Inhale, into cat. One more time, exhale, round into cat. And inhale, up into cow. Good. So from here, we're going to come to downward dog. So I'll start by just rocking my hands forward just a little bit. We still want the hands in front of the shoulders, just a little bit in front. So the hands are shoulder distance apart. We're going to go ahead and tuck the toes now so that the toes are on the mat. And when you're ready, you're going to press into the toes, shift the weight back a little bit, and then lift those hips high up into the sky. We're going to bring our head between our arms so that our ears are right next to the upper arms, and then we're going to shift our weight back so the heels are reaching for the floor. Downward facing dog. Now, if we're feeling a lot of tension, we can bend our knees a lot in this pose. In downward dog, we want to really practice or focus on the length of the spine, having that nice straight spine. Now, it doesn't matter if your heels are way up high or your heels are way down low. It depends on the flexibility of your calves and your ankles. So, no judgment on where you are in your yoga journey. We are all different. Keep breathing through the nose. And we're going to take our right foot and we're going to bring it all the way up between our hands. If you need to just grab hold of that foot and make it come there, that's fine too. We want to end up with the knee directly over the ankle. So we try not to be here in this position where the knee is way out over the ankle, so a lot of stress on the knee. So grab hold of that foot and bring it forward. We're coming into Crescent Lunge, so the back toes, the left toes are on the floor. And you're going to rise up. You have an option to have your hands on your hips. If you're feeling wobbly, you just walk that right foot out a little bit farther. Your other option is to bring the arms up, shoulder up towards the sky, and relax the shoulders down a little bit. And here we are, Crescent Lunge. See if you can press strongly into this back leg, really feeling a nice stretch in that hip flexor. Come the deepest you can, if possible. You want to have that right thigh almost parallel to the floor. And we're going to exhale. We are not going to exhale. We're going to transition to Warrior Two. So we're going to drop this left foot to the floor so that the whole foot is flat on the floor. We're going to turn our hips to face the long side of the mat, and we're going to straighten that front leg for a moment. When you're ready, you're going to go ahead and bend that right knee nice and deeply, almost as deep or as deep as it was in the Crescent Lunge, so that the knee tracks over the ankle. We have now our hips facing the long side of the mat. We have our shoulders facing the long side of the mat. We're stacking shoulders over hips. Scoop the belly in, arms come up shoulder height, and you can turn to look over at your right middle finger. This is your Warrior Two pose, Virabhadrasana 2. My knee tends to track inward. You really want to try to draw it out so that it stacks directly over that right ankle. No worries if it's not actually there, it's just that's where you'd like to bring it eventually. So from here, we're going to move into Goddess Pose. So we're going to straighten the right leg and we're going to turn both toes so that they're facing like this, the opposite corners of the mat, but the front corners or this side's corners. Then we're going to bend our knees and come into Goddess. So again, we want to keep our shoulders over our hips. Scoop that belly in. So rather than allowing your butt to stick out, we're gonna really pull ourselves back in so that we're nice up and in a straight line up and down. If that means that your knees aren't bent so much, that's fine. If you are super flexible and you can come all the way down, which I cannot, go for it. Arms come up, palms reach up, and we come to cactus arms. Think here about drawing the shoulder blades together behind you on the back so that you can broaden the chest. Goddess pose. Another breath here. Then we'll bring our hands to our hips, straighten our legs, and we're going to transition to warrior two, other side. So turn the right toes to face the long side of the mat. Turn the left toes to face the back of the mat. Go ahead and bend that left knee. And track it directly over the left ankle. Hips are still facing the long side of the mat. Shoulders are still facing the long side of the mat. Scoop the belly in. Arms come up shoulder height. Looking out over the left middle finger this time. Warrior two, Virabhadrasana two. So sometimes in this pose, we tend to kind of reach forward. This is actually the back of my mat, so reach backwards. We really want to try to keep the shoulders stacked over the hips right in the center of those feet. So we'll come into crescent pose facing the back of the mat. So all we're going to do is take that back, the right heel and lift it up off the floor. So hopping up onto the toes now. We're really straightening the right legs. Now our hips are facing the back of the mat, the back side of the room. Pull the belly in and you have the option of hands here or arms up alongside the ears. Again, making sure that you can have that safe knee position, knee over ankle. You should be able to see your left big toe. Transitioning to downward dog facing the back of the mat. Bring the hands down on either side of the left foot. Press the palms deeply into the floor. Step back to downward dog. Lifting the hips high up into the sky, pressing the belly towards the thighs, tucking the shoulder blades down the back. We're going to take 5 breaths here. You have an option for resting. Bring the knees down, touching the toes, and coming into your child pose. Whichever one feels best for you right now. Really focus on finding the breath. Focus on how your body is feeling each pose in the now, rather than allowing your mind to think about what you need to do later or your to-do list. Really focus on breathing in and out and really paying attention to how that feels. So we're going to step forward with the left leg, coming back into that crescent lunge, basically the same pose we were just in. Left foot steps up between the hands, right toes stay on the ground, rise up to your crescent lunge. Make sure that you can see the left big toes. Scoop the belly in, reach the arms if that feels good. 3 breaths. Press strongly into that back heel like you want to be able to touch it to your mat. Okay, we're going to transition to warrior two. So bring your hands to your hips, turn your hips to the side of the room, straighten the back leg for a moment, and then go ahead and bend it deeply, coming into that right angle. See if you can draw the energy coming from the inner thigh towards the outside of the knee. Keep the shoulders over the hips, arms up. Look at the left middle finger. So focusing on what the body feels, seeing if you can relax parts of your body that you're not using. So if you're clenching your jaws or making a frowny face because you're focused, try to relax the face. Coming into goddess, we'll straighten both legs, turn the toes out to the corners of your mat, bend the knees when you're ready, coming into that nice deep squat, belly pulled in, shoulders over hips. So you're really feeling strong right here in the core, arms up in cactus. Take the elbows and draw them towards the back of the room by pulling your shoulder blades towards each other on your back. Hands come down. Transition to warrior two, right leg forward now. So the left toes are facing the long side of the mat. The right toes are facing the front side of the mat. Bend the right knee deeply over that right ankle. Arms up shoulder height. Gaze over the right middle finger. So here, fingertips away from fingertips. Reaching the arms long, broadening the chest. Deepening the squat of the legs. Pressing your mat apart. And coming into crescent, so hands to the hips, hop up onto that back toe, so the left heel is off the floor. Energetically pressing the left leg straight, really feeling it in the hip flexor, shoulders over hips, arms up if you like. This is Crescent Lunge. Look down and make sure you can see that right big toe. And we're going to come back to downward dog. So the arms reach down on either side of the right foot and step that right foot back. Ugh. Might take several steps into your downward dog. Press the heels into the floor, tuck the shoulder blades into the back, move the belly button towards the thighs. This is your last downward dog. Allow the head to be just an elongation of the neck. No tension in that neck. And then we're going to transition onto our knees, coming into Camel Pose. So go ahead and just sit back onto the heels and come into Rock Pose for a moment. Camel Pose is a back bend. There are several different levels. If you've never done the back bend before, it's a good idea to watch it first and then try to practice it. It does require you to stand up on your knees. So if you are on, see I have a rug underneath my yoga mat. If I was just on the hard surface, I would definitely want to hold my yoga mat. In fact, I'm just going to a second time so that I have a little bit more cushion under my knees. So for camel, you want to make sure that you have, just going to turn this way for a moment, you want to make sure that you have some space in between the knees. So the knees are directly over the hips. You can just make sure that you can put like both fists down in between the knees. And you also want to look behind you and make sure the heels are directly behind the knees. We don't want to have our feet out, splayed out wide, or having our toes touch. So we want to have them just directly behind us. First part of Camel Pose is just to be tall. So shoulders over hips, hips over knees. We're going to take our arms or our hands and stick them in our pockets, our pretend pockets, on our butt. So our fingertips are facing down. It's like we're putting our hands in our back pockets, and then we're going to take our elbows and draw them towards each other so that we're kind of puffing our chest out. All we have to do from here is just look up at the sky, and you're already in Camel Pose. What we want to make sure that we're doing is keeping the hips over the knees, so we're not leaning way back here. That's a lot of stress on the knees. That actually hurt. So this can be your Camel Pose. If you're feeling like, I could come a little bit deeper, you can come up onto the toes and drop back and reach for the ankles. Wherever you are, you're letting your chin open up to the sky. Keep your breath flowing, and you're going to stay in the pose for 3 breaths. So we want to keep the hips over the knees. Breathe deep into the belly. Slowly coming up, we'll tuck the chin, and we'll come back into Rock Pose. You can unfold your mat. Good. So here, we're just going to tuck the chin deeply into the chest, finding length in the back of the neck, relaxing the shoulders. And then we're going to transition onto our backs. So just find however you can get to your back. We're going to be laying on our backs with our knees bent. We're going to practice our bridge pose. And bridge pose is a pose that you don't want to turn your head in, like I have my head turned now. So if you haven't practiced it before, go ahead and watch it and then try practicing it. So we want to be gazing up at the sky. We want to keep a nice space between the chin and the chest when we come up. We're going to be lifting our hips up. Before we do that, we're going to let our hands come down to the floor, palms facing. Actually, we're going to turn our palms facing down. Press the elbows gently into the floor. And see if you can just press the backs of the shoulder blades into the floor so you can feel your chest kind of puffing up. We want our feet about hip distance apart. So again, not up by the edges of our yoga mat, but about the sit bone distance apart. Then we're going to press into our feet and lift the hips up. We want to lift them up just high enough so that we feel like there's a straight line from knees to hips to shoulders. So we're making that nice diagonal angle. Now you can press into your hands, into the back of the arms to possibly lift a little bit higher. Notice your thighs. We want to keep the thighs parallel to each other rather than letting them splay out. So go ahead and really press into the thighs and feel where they are. If you're feeling comfortable here and you kind of want to rock onto one shoulder and tuck the other shoulder under and rock onto that shoulder and tuck the other shoulder under, you can come into a little bit more of a lift and interlace the fingers underneath that tailbone. Still, I have a nice space between my chin and my chest, and the back of my neck is curved just like it was when I was lying down, so I'm not putting a lot of pressure on my neck. Breathe deeply here. We're going to take 3 more breaths. And then to come down, if you are up on those shoulders and the hands were interlaced, you'll unlace the hands, come down off onto the shoulders, and we're going to think of rolling our backs down one vertebrae at a time. So from the bottom of the neck through the shoulder blades, those individual, you want to make individual vertebrae imprints into your mat. See if you can get that curve of the lower back to come all the way down until finally your tailbone touches the mat, and then you can tuck your knees into your chest. And it feels good sometimes to just rock back side to side. But if you want to just remain still, you can always remain still and just really draw the knees into the chest. And your hands can be here and your knees may be here. Everybody's different. Remember, we have no judgment in our practice. So we're going to do another chest opener. It's called fish pose. So we're going to just bring our legs all the way down onto the floor now. I'll scoot on my mat in just a moment. So we want our legs straight. We want to bring our hands alongside the hips, palms down, and we're going to press the elbows. So we want our elbows kind of like almost touching the rib cage, and we're going to press the forearms and the elbows into the floor so much that our ribs lift up, and we're going to actually lift all the way up. And then we're going to drop the top of the head just gently down so it's barely touching on the mat. So it's like somebody could slide a piece of paper under there now. I have just the top of my head just barely touching. So I am opening my chest a lot in this pose. I still am able to breathe comfortably, but I feel a stretch in my neck, the front of my neck. And breathe. This is called fish pose, Matsyendrasana, I think. Fish pose. To come out, we just tuck the chin and lower ourselves all the way down. And we're almost done. We're just going to do a nice twist, and then we're coming into Shavasana. So let's draw the right knee up and into the chest. Take both hands onto the right shin or the back of the right thigh and draw that leg in as close to the body, maybe pressing the thigh to the belly. Then we're going to take our right hand out beside us, palm down. Our left hand is gently going to guide the right leg across the body, and maybe we'll turn and look at our right hand. We want to be twisting from like the rib cage down, so the right hips may lift up, but we really want to try to keep the right shoulder as our stability point. Our shoulder girdle as the stability point. So both shoulders, we want to try to keep them on the mat. So if that means that you are here, rather than the leg coming closer to the floor, it's better for the body to have that shoulder stability. And still we breathe. Twists at the end of practice just feel great. So if you turn to look at your right hand, we're going to gaze back at the sky or the ceiling, and we're going to roll right back onto the back. Let's tuck the right knee in and the left knee in. So both knees are in. Maybe we rock side to side. Maybe we stay still, whatever feels best. Of course, we're going to do the other side. So lengthen the right leg. Take a moment to really hug that left leg into you. Really squeeze it in. Take the left hand now beside you, palm down, so it's right out from the body. The right hand is just going to gently guide the left leg across the body. And we're keeping that shoulder girdle again, pressing towards the mat. So my left shoulder is reaching or touching the floor. And if it doesn't feel good to look left, then look up instead. You always want it to feel good. Your right hand does not have to rest on the leg. It can just also be on the floor. And look up at the ceiling, roll back onto the back. And we are taking our final preparations for Shavasana, which is corpse pose or complete relaxation, which is the best part of our yoga class. So you have the option of having your feet down and your knees up. If you have a little tension in the lower back or in the back of the legs, this is a great option. Or the other option is to just have your legs straight. If you're doing this, go ahead and give some space between the legs so that the feet flop open and you have lots of room. Your hands, palms are facing the sky. We do this so that we have these forearm bones, they're not crossed, so the energy is flowing. And let there be room between the body and the arms, and then just simply close the eyes. Now we can let go of our yogic breathing. We can let ourselves sink into the floor. I like to allow myself to just absolutely melt into the mat. I let my body's natural breath take over. We want to allow ourselves at least 5 minutes of relaxation at the end of any type of yoga practice. If you have time, 10 minutes is better. You can turn this off and put your phone timer on, play some music, soothing music in the background. For your relaxation, it is the best thing for your body to do. When you're in final relaxation, try to, again, like we did in practice though, just focus on the breath. Our minds are always trying to be very busy, but we try not to pay attention to those thoughts. And so we hear the sound of the bell. And we know that it's just time to come back into the body. We can keep the eyes closed for a while longer. Maybe we just simply stretch. Stretch our arms overhead, stretch our legs out long. Or we just wiggle fingers and toes. Eventually we'll roll to our favorite side and rest there for a moment, maybe cradling the head in the hands. And we'll make our way into our comfortable seated position, whatever that is for you now. Let's leave the eyes closed for just a tiny bit more. In the comfortable position, we'll just let our hands rest on our thighs for a moment. Sit tall. And take a moment to think of something that you are grateful for, something that brings you joy, or someone. And really focus on that feeling of happiness and joy. So much so that maybe you can feel like you could maybe bottle it up, put it in a little bottle, and put it in your heart so that maybe some other time during this season or any other time when you just need a little bit of joy, you can just open that bottle and remember that feeling. And then to close, we'll bring our hands alongside the body. And with a great big inhale, we'll stretch the arms all the way out wide and all the way up overhead until the palms meet overhead. Letting the prayer hands float down in front of us now. Slowly they come until finally our hands reach our heart center. Press the thumbs into the heart to seal the practice. Tuck the chin and allow the eyes to slowly open. And you have arrived. Namaste. Thank you very much for taking the time with me to practice on your mat. I hope you enjoyed this class and come back and do it multiple times. Do pieces of it if you like and try some of my other ones. Namaste.